Okay, so most of you have a good idea of what unhealthy foods are, like sugary foods, greasy foods, fatty foods, but there are also these other foods that are infiltrating our food supply. These are called GMOs. Now, what is a GMO? A GMO is basically a genetically modified organism. And this affects our food because the crops that produce our food are genetically modified now. And the point of this is to make them, it's supposed to give them qualities like bug resistance, heat resistance, cold resistance. And I was first introduced to this concept when my mom started changing the types of food she was giving me. She started giving me organic foods, and I asked her why. She just said it's healthy for you, just eat it. And so I wasn't satisfied with this because it didn't taste as good. So I persisted and I persisted. And she finally told me my old food had GMOs in them. And at the time, I thought this was an ingredient, so there's nothing I could do about it anyway, so I just accepted it. And later, a few weeks later, in my science class, we watched a video about genetics, and this video explained what GMOs were, and they seemed like a safe process. After all, you're like putting good qualities into our food and the crops that make our food. So I went back to my mom with this information, and she seemed pretty mad. She did not like that our school was presenting such controversial ideas to the students. Like, it was giving them bad ideas. And thankfully, she didn't call the school after like an hour of me begging her not to. And, but she did make me write an essay on it. And while I was doing my research for this essay, I found lots of conflicting ideas. Like, some articles said that it was a safe and beneficial process, while others said that they were toxic and they had altered nutritional value. So I went back to my mom with the article supporting GMOs because I wanted my old food back. And my mom knew exactly which articles I was looking at. And it turns out she told me to go back and look who wrote the articles, and they were written by the company Monsanto. Monsanto is the #1 most common producer of GMOs in the world. They own 40% of the cropland in the US, and just the US alone, not even including other countries, and this is not including other genetically modified farms. So Monsanto claims that their food, their crops, I should say, they increase crop yield, they decrease pesticide use, but this is completely not true. But it's easy to think so, right? After all, they're implanting the food with good genetic qualities that help them survive. So of course the crop yield would go up, and since they're implanting bug resistance into it, of course pesticide use would go down, right? But this is wrong because bugs have adapted to these genetically modified foods, and now they have to use heavy amounts of this pesticide called glyphosate. And now this is a very toxic pesticide, and they douse all of our crops with it. And this pesticide has been known to increase the cause of cancer and autism. After absorbing all this information, I was curious why this process was even legal anymore. Because after all, it can't kill you, right? So I asked my mom, and it turns out the FDA has no regulations on these genetically modified foods, as what we don't know largely outweighs what we know about these. And so after thinking about it, I thought about, well, we eat these every day, and most people do, right? So it can't be that bad. So I decided to do my own little experiment. I would eat organic foods for about a little over a month, and then I would take note of my results. So after the first week, I was just trying to get used to the taste, but after I got used to it, it was fine. And then after the second week, I noticed I had a lot more energy throughout the day, and it was easier to focus in class, things like that. After about 3 weeks, my grades started to rise because of it being easier to focus. But this diet was hard to uphold because these GMO foods are not labeled. There are only a certain amount of companies that produce non-GMO foods, and some of them are listed here. But now people are deciding to fight, protest, to get these GMOs labeled. And now I just have to wait for the day where all these GMOs are labeled so I can get back to eating my healthy food.